We are live. Okay, this is Senate Finance. This is the 15th. I just wanted to give us a chance to debrief, and then we have one little piece of housekeeping. We have appointments. The people that are here from the House, the Senate has to approve all appointments. We do secretaries and commissioners in committee. And so we have Eric Johnson, who is going to be commissioner of the Department of Public. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Commission of Public Service and the Department of Public Service. So he will be in on Friday. We can talk to him. They are the consumer representatives before the commission, and now we changed their name on public service. Yeah, but he will be in, and we have two more that came down yesterday. I try to do these as close as possible to districts, so I have one from Virgins, and I think that may be yours, and I have one from Lindenville. So we do not have.
Oh, I don't care.
Okay. We do. Good. We don't have contact information yet, right?
For those two?
Yeah.
Yes, I know.
Oh, we do. Okay.
I think I have his plans.
Okay. Well, good. Those worked out.
This is something we've been talking about for how many years now? They send down these confirmation things with no addresses and phone numbers. One guy I couldn't even find for right out.
No, that's right. You had one guy who couldn't even find.
Just ask her on Facebook. That's what
Yeah, I mean,
That's what I do for Google.
Find people for a living.
if they pop up on Google, we're probably a problem.
You can ask the governor's office.
Yes, well, that, but every
They
year
don't
we have
information.
committee, we have committee staff has to take time
Yeah.
I know.
and say, would you please send contact information so we can contact them? Basically, we just asked them for some background. I was told, asked if they've done anything to embarrass the governor, which I
That's the
think
longest
was
time you're in
facetious.
jail or prison.
Yeah. But mostly background, do you want to serve? Why do you want to serve? Soon as you've got them, we just knock them out. They go on the calendar. Commissioners and secretaries are done individually on the floor by voice vote, by roll call. Everybody else, Senator Hardy, you were the expert on this one. Sometime towards the end of the session, somebody will move page 200 through 242 that we approve all appointments thereon.
Yeah.
It is fairly pro forma with the boards, unless something really pops up, like you can't find him because he's in a correctional facility. I think we might want to know that.
I mentioned this morning in our morning committee that I did get somebody at one point who was actually deceased. I have the Yeah.
Well, I mean, these are all coming to David Zuckerman.
So you got a
We appointments done by governors who have been out of office for some time. They make it, I'm not sure what the delay is in getting it to us, but when you change administrations, there's some, sometimes they're to fill a term of somebody that's retired, or so they're strange. We just do the best we can with them. Other than that, I want to give us a chance to kind of debrief. Anything you saw that was surprising? What was the most interesting thing in there?
I'll just say one thing. Commissioner Bully caught me afterwards and he said that there's a 240-page report on the Jake Feldman.
No, we aren't quoting any bills done.
Tax credit. I would love to get my hands on that. He said he's gonna email it to me, but I live my life by the committee.
Which one you,
Not the appraisal, but something about the property tax credit. Yeah.
I found several reports. We don't usually put them on our website until we actually take up a bill where they're referenced. if you go to the Department of Taxes, I had to go down to the bottom and it's handouts and forms and reports.
I think it was Act 183 is the one you're looking
Yeah.
for, I think.
That.
And I,
That's the
someplace,
property appraisal one, I'm pretty sure.
yeah, that's on there.
Yeah, if it's been already submitted to the legislature, there is a page for legislative reports that has a good search bar. So you can put in tax and probably find it.
He said he would send it to me. Just really like, maybe.
I will find them. I've got
No,
4 of them came in December. I've just got to go back through my email to December and find them. This is a piece of cake compared to health and welfare.
a lot of
Seems,
reports
we
there.
seem to love reports in health and welfare.
Yeah,
Lots of.
actually, I have a bill, sorry, Senator,
Okay.
that's okay, about reports, getting rid of some reports.
So most, anything surprising here?
I have a question.
Yeah,
Not so much surprising, but, it's a lot, and I mean, clearly. The ground is being prepared for some pretty. I don't want to say apocalyptic, but large, major, shifts and changes.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, how are we going to respond to what's coming out? Do we take the proposal and then come back with a counter proposal? Are we prepared ourselves to have a proposal ahead of time, or just curious what the process is?
I think we, about the pro tem's office, and I assume the speaker's office has asked the governor if he has any proposals to bring them to us this week, and that we would spend the first 2 weeks giving them due consideration, because he said we haven't. But in the past, they've come the end of April, the 1st of May, when we're clearing the boards and the bills are pretty much set in concrete. He has stepped up to the challenge this year, and I think it is pretty obvious, some of us have gotten briefings, that there will be a major proposal for an overhaul of the system, both financing and delivery. Delivery is school board, schools, school size, school, everything. We won't know the details until
The 28th,
yeah.
I mean, that's the day that he.
that's the
presents.
day he is going to present.
But we don't know the details until that time.
I thought they were shooting for a caucus of the whole reveal next week.
That's right. He is going to have a
Yeah.
caucus of the whole. That came up yesterday and it's
From
still,
today, I think they're hoping.
yeah.
Well, that's good.
So
Try
we
to
will
accelerate.
know. I think my intention, I'm trying to get, I know the NEA has a proposal. Then that's for an income, going to an income funding system. I don't think it's got any major change. I haven't heard of any, but changes to the delivery system. There has, and then I was gonna do one on funding formulas and one on foundation formulas. We got a little bit about the rest of the country, pretty much 98, 99% does some form of foundation formula. That is, the state makes you a payment. How that's raised, how it's distributed, if you can raise more money over and above that, seems to have as many iterations as there are states and sometimes districts. So it's pretty wide open as to what we will do. I'm assuming there will be a lot of public opinion, just given the public opinion that we've gotten on it.
And so will delivery go to Ed and finance will come here? Is that how it's gonna be divided?
That is the technical division.
Right.
But if we are going to have to do a lot of work together, because,
So the two.
yeah, I mean, they're gonna have to match. So we will crunch the numbers in here. I don't know that they care how we raise the money, as much as how it gets dispersed. individually, I'm sure we all care about everything. We're gonna have as much public input. I would assume we will probably have a public hearing, maybe more than one. I know it is difficult to travel around in January and February. And I'm assuming that whatever we do, we will not be able to implement it immediately this year with money, just because if you start a new tax in July, the money doesn't come in. If it's an income tax, it doesn't come in for a year, so we will have to be looking at that. I'm anticipating, and I don't know what the governor's crunch, just before I got in and found out he was gonna do anything, I was anticipating needing to raise some money to buy down this year's tax rate. We're trying to get hold of Julia, but apparently she's working in the house every Tuesday afternoon. And I asked why, well, they're on the floor Tuesday morning, so I'm gonna see if I can't book her like every Wednesday afternoon. To help us crunch numbers and see, we'll crunch it. I'm trying to set up, I've asked the NEA, there was a summer study committee, there is their report on the joint fiscal website. I found the report. What it doesn't have, what happened was, it sounded like a good idea, and I think there were 5, 6 of us on that committee. Everybody, Chris Pearson was on there, he wanted to do this. Andrew Kirchlick, I was on there, Emily was on there, we all wanted this to work. Tom Conlon was on there. But then we started to get the numbers crunched, and it didn't turn out to be the simple thing we thought it would, at least to fit it into the present system, because 2/3 of the people already pay based on their income. And if we did something there, something bad happened here or here, either in the middle or below. So we can get that report. I'll have Julie go over it. And basically what we ended up saying is, well, if you want to do one, this is how you do it. But none of us put that bill in. After listening to all the testimony. So, I'm gonna have Julia come over and bring as many of those charts, because they aren't posted, as she can resurrect and show us what was happening there. So we know that. Anybody else has any other proposals? We'll take them all up. I'd like to get a whiteboard in here, or I'm a visual learner. I want to map the school districts on it.
That does exist.
Yeah, yes, and I've told the secretary, and she's said they will have them. I want a big map. It might be good if we could get an interactive map so we could move things around.
House Ed has a big map with all the districts.
Yeah. So we just get another one of those.
Yeah.
That's right now, everything is on the table. The governor is giving us something to work from, which may be easier than, because he's got all that staff to do all that work. It's might be easier to start with him with that proposal, and then this has not been published. We will get the public input. We will, work with our staff. There will be public input.
I like that it has not been published. Never.
I know, I like that too.
Can I ask, first of all, Charlotte, will you put the presentation, the slides from today on our website?
I attempted to do that and I didn't post where it was supposed to, so. I'll look at
Okay.
that figured out,
Because
yeah.
like it's been enriching and it's nice to be able to have all of the stuff we look at on our.
Yeah,
Don't forget,
once we
which-
look at it, I haven't posted the reappraisal study, I haven't posted.
Oh, yeah, that's
but
fine.
Until
It's
we
just-
take them up, I don't like
Yeah,
to post.
that's fine, just for today, so
Then they're
you reference it
I
again.
like them tied to the testimony.
If you want to do a comparison across states to give us a sort of idea of what other states do, a good resource is the Education Commission of the States.
Okay.
You remember for pupil waiting, we had them in and they can give a presentation, sort of broad presentation on sort of what other states do. And they have an excellent website that compares all 50 states and their school funding formula. So anybody who wants to look at that has the details of what kind of formula, and not like the super details, but an overview of the kinds of formulas
That
each
might be-
state has.
Because we also have the PICUS report, which I will ask them to walk through. PICUS has done work for us before. There's, sounds like two nationally known groups. The Department of Ed is contracted with one and we contracted with the other. They have slightly different takes. PICUS goes through what is required for a good education in the way of teachers. I think most of the teachers in the state would love the support system. He says it is necessary for teachers to have. I'm quite sure that most of our schools can't afford it. He's got, class sizes, what a class size nationally seems to be the best, to also allow you to be able to have the range of classes as you get up. It gets more important. So we've got PICUS and then is it ADP, AHP that they, and I think that's what they'll be talking about tomorrow. The governor mentioned it, a child-centered
Yeah,
foundation.
it's a group that AOE is, I guess. is
Yeah, they've
involved in the last 6 months or something.
And they aren't disagreeing, but they're saying, they're just saying, you do this based on what it's necessary to provide. Our foundation formula provided a minimal education. We decided, and as I understand it, we saw it the other day, you raised what you could of that minimal based on what was a reasonable tax rate in your town, and what you couldn't raise. They contributed. And then you could raise whatever you wanted over and above that. It was the raising anything you wanted over and above that got us in trouble with Brigham. I don't know that any other state has anything like Brigham. I know a lot of them have court rulings for adequacy. I think it was Wyoming that got sued this fall for.
Most states have been sued over. this.
Oh, yeah, for being, and they all have court orders telling them they have to spend more. We'll take a look at all of those things too.
Well, I'll be interested.
Yeah.
What I'll be interested to see once we see the governor's proposal. Question will be dominant in my mind is how does it pass the Brigham test, and what I'm gonna want to overlay with what world was like before Brigham, because I just don't have enough historical context of how it completely changed with Act 60. I have an idea of what Act 60 did, but I just don't know what the status was prior to that. And that's what I'm gonna want to overlay this.
I mean, it basically was a very, very minuscule foundation here.
It was always
Yeah.
underfunded by the state.
Like
And that's what
7%.
it was a minimal education, not an adequate or good
Or below
education.
adequate.
And if you had lived in a wealthy town, you could have a better, more resources than if you. lived-
One of my towns had a violin band in their middle elementary school, and some of the others couldn't afford a music program.
Yeah.
They had a 28-cent tax rate, And we had places in the kingdom that had a $3.28 tax rate. It wasn't a minimal divergence. And the more the towns that had the highest rates were usually the ones that had the lowest opportunities, because they just had no property tax base. They were all sparse.
I believe the foundation amount at that time was, the foundation was 7% of total education spending. I mean, it was like really minuscule.
But now that we fixed it with Brigham, after Brigham, and to get us to where we are today, when we did the weighting study, what was it, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago?
2 years ago.
We found so much improvement that South Burlington had 6 sports for varsity and Canaan, of course, had 1. And so, and you sort of say, well, what do we actually do to actually make any progress?
So I think we're probably gonna see a more broad-based definition. I think we're going to see some structural changes in the governor's proposal.
Hopefully we'll find it in one of the 39 other proposals that have been done beforehand in terms of studies.
And the other thing we're gonna have to deal with, and it was very clear until we changed it, in Act 60 was that guarantee that it got funded. Because there had to be a transfer from the general fund and there was an inflation factor. Which did not set well with the appropriations people when they were hatcheting the safety net and the schools got an increase. And there was some trade-offs there too. And I know that the schools, just in the commission, don't like having teachers' pension in the ed fund. I think you heard today that the general fund is making multi-million-dollar contributions to teachers' pension.
Yeah.
Plus, we have put their healthcare on a not pay-as-you-go basis, but something that actually has a fund under it, that's still developing. But what's in the ed fund is just the ongoing, what every employer pays, the employer contribution.
Employer cost is,
Yeah.
the normal cost,
What does OPA? What does
OPEB.
OPEB?
They make
Okay.
they make an OPEB payment and then a pension normal cost payment.
So anyway, that is it. No surprises. Anyone heard in there? Okay. All right. I think we're done. We're gonna repeat this tomorrow. Then we're on our own. Next week, I'm gonna try and set up. Nolan Langwell did a really good presentation for health and welfare this morning on health insurance. He did it more broadly on all insurance, the whole health care delivery system. I can do that. He did it in an hour and a half. Less time than
Even
we-
less than that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
He said in an hour. I was gonna see if he could come in on Friday, which that's,
He's here Friday at 2:30.
he's here at Friday. Okay. Takes him about an hour. He's gonna do just health insurance because that's our other major issue. Health and welfare will be dealing with hospitals and costs and hospitals in the red. We will
Cost
be,
shifting.
yeah, cost shifting.
I'm gonna bring in 2 or 3 of my medical bills with the price list. You know, when you look at how much Medicare pays for something and how much private patient who is paying for it pays for it.
Yes.
It's that cost shift. I mean, it's really outrageous. So
It
It
is.
really is outrageous.
Yeah, it is, and we've reached the point where, you know, I don't think people have quite gotten all their bills yet, but to keep food costs afloat after years of not giving them what they said they needed, DFR is going to step in because their reserves are below the level that are required. If we have another COVID outbreak, they may not have the money to pay
And
the
the
bill.
issue of, the suspicion that I had last year with MVP is that they are not necessarily long for the Vermont world. We're a small percentage and of their business, relatively speaking. And, they made it clear last year what we did regarding all that.
It's
Claims edit is the big
Yeah,
one.
the claims edit.
The, right, we will, even though we never got custody of that bill, which is a major impact on health insurance, we thought, but no one ever looked. We tried. Bipartisan tried.
Right. We did.
I tried. We couldn't get jurisdiction over that bill. MVP has had me in, I'm sure they've had you in, they've had a couple of us in. They're very clear, they can live with the prior approval. But they have to set up an entire new technology system to do the
Crazy.
claims
The
edit
net result
and,
of that in terms of the actual additional cost
yes,
to healthcare as a result.
so
that.
they're just, we're not worth it to them. We're too small a portion of their market for them to do an entire new system and new employees and new training and new everything. I think we're going to have to find a way. We can do a committee bill. We'll find something to stick it on. We'll take the testimony. But I think we're going to have to talk about that issue if it's not talked about somewhere else. We should be getting an insurance. Usually they have Representative Marcotte or myself introduce a housekeeping bill. Last year, they were too late they didn't get it in under the deadline. So we ended up putting DFR housekeeping on the captive insurance bill, which was somewhat confusing. I'll be amazed if we don't have a captive insurance bill because we've had one every year. It's a rapidly growing and changing. And so we do one every year, just to meet the demands of the market. And it's worked. We make a lot of money and no one knows they're here.
One of the few profit centers we have.
That's right. Few very good jobs. And they will be here next week. This is their annual meeting, which they are required to hold in Vermont. And they will be here, I believe, after the floor next Wednesday or Thursday.
So
Captives.
Monday.
Someday.
Yep, Wednesday.
Yes, and enjoy them. They are the only people that love us, that come through here and tell us how wonderful we are. And it'll be the only time this year we're
And they
gonna
actually make us money.
I got captives and the sluicers once went through here and were happy.
Sluicers?
Yeah, the guys that pan for gold, they used to have to get a separate permit for every stream they wanted to sluice in. And we allowed them to get one permit to sluice. But we don't make too many people ecstatic, so that's it. Anybody has any things you want us to set up? We're winging it on this bill. Once we have something concrete, but from what I've gathered, they are still working out the details. And the devil is always there, so we will be working our way through it.
I just sent you all an article about education finance reform. Hope you don't mind.
No. Information is good. We can post it.
Like maybe take a look, see if it's worthy of posting.
Post everything. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you all. This can get long and dry.